In the shadows of history, one family quietly shaped the fate of nations, funding wars, empires, and fortunes beyond imagination. But how did five brothers from a small German ghetto come to control the flow of money across Europe? The year is 1760. Europe is a continent of kingdoms and conflict, of crowns and chaos. Wars erupt, empires rise and fall, and fortunes are lost overnight. Amid this turbulence, in the Jewish quarter of Frankfurt, a man named Meyer Amschel Rothschild begins to quietly build what will become a financial dynasty unlike any the world has ever seen. A man with little land, little influence, but one extraordinary skill: the ability to move money where others could not. He understood that the future belonged not to the swords of the kings, but to the vaults and ledgers of bankers.
Meyer Amschel was not born into wealth, but he had an uncanny instinct for finance. He understood that the future belonged not to the swords of kings, but to the vaults and ledgers of bankers. He taught his five sons a secret almost as powerful as gold itself: that money is more than wealth. It is influence, it is leverage, it is power. Each son was sent to a different major city in Europe, a strategy unheard of at the time. Nathan to London, Amschel to Frankfurt, Salomon to Vienna, Karl to Naples, and James to Paris. From these 5 points, the family began to weave a web that would encircle the continent. What started as small loans to merchants and kings would soon turn into financing wars and building empires.
Europe was at war. Napoleon Bonaparte's armies marched across the continent, leaving chaos in their wake. Governments needed cash, and no one was better positioned to deliver it than the Rothschilds. Nathan Rothschild in London orchestrated an intelligence network that would become legendary. Carrier pigeons, secret couriers, coded messages. By the time news of Napoleon's defeat reached England, Nathan had already profited, positioning the family as the undisputed financial power of the continent. Through shrewd lending and unparalleled communication, the Rothschilds financed governments, armies, and industry. No empire could rise or fall without touching their vaults. And yet, the family remained largely invisible. To the public, they were whispers, shadows in the newspapers, mythic figures whose powers seemed almost supernatural.
As the 19th century unfolded, the Rothschilds solidified their wealth and influence. Strategic marriages between cousins ensured that fortune stayed within the family. Every branch of the family became a powerhouse in its own right, yet connected by an invisible thread of loyalty, strategy, and secrecy. They funded railroads in France, mines in South Africa, and government bonds across Europe. Their wealth was no longer just money, it was the infrastructure of empires, the lifeblood of economies. But their rise was not without danger. Wars, revolutions, and banking crises threatened to topple them, yet each time their network, intelligence, and foresight saved them. The Rothschilds were not merely bankers, they were architects of influence, whisperers of power behind every throne, unseen but omnipresent.
Today, the Rothschild name evokes conspiracy theories, whispered legends, and awe-inspiring tales of wealth. But beyond the myths lies a story of vision, strategy, and discipline. They teach us that power is not always visible, that influence often flows quietly through networks, and that foresight, intelligence, and strategy can shape the course of history more than armies or swords. The rise of the Rothschilds reminds us that even from the smallest beginnings, a man in a Frankfurt ghetto, 5 determined sons, empires can be funded, fortunes built, and history itself quietly rewritten. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all, in the world of power and money, the hands that control the flow of capital often control the destiny of nations.